The first thing I noticed was the temperature drop. My room was always warm. Too warm, according to my mother, because the climate regulators in our apartment block were old and stubborn. But just after midnight, as I lay half awake listening to the distant hum of traffic tubes, the air turned cold enough to raise goosebumps on my arms. Then the light changed. It wasn't bright. It was wrong. A thin, silvery glow seeped through the walls themselves, as if the room had forgotten how to be solid. I sat up in bed. Someone was standing near my desk. I didn't scream. Not because I was brave, but because my body hadn't caught up with reality yet. My mind tried to explain it away. Sleep paralysis, a dream, a stress hallucination from too many late shifts at the archives. But she moved. She was about my age, maybe a year older, wearing a simple dark garment that looked woven rather than stitched. Her hair floated slightly, as if gravity treated her as a suggestion instead of a rule. Her eyes were wide, alert, and filled with something I couldn't name at first.
Fear.
"I'm sorry," she said quickly, her voice quiet but urgent. "I didn't mean to scare you." My mouth finally worked. "How did you get in here?" She glanced at the walls, then back at me. "Through the fold. It's not important right now." That was not a reassuring answer. I reached for the light panel beside my bed. When I touched it, nothing happened. The glow in the room pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. "What do you want?" I asked. She hesitated, as if the words were heavy. Then she said, "I need somewhere safe. Just for a few hours." I stared at her. "You broke into my room." "Yes." "And you think that's safe?" Her lips pressed together. "Safer than where I was." I should have told her to leave. I should have shouted for my parents, for security, for anyone. Instead, I noticed how exhausted she looked. Not sleepy, worn, like someone who had been running for a very long time without rest. "Who are you?" I asked. "My name is Lyra," she said. "And if they find me before dawn, a lot of people will die." That got my attention. She took a careful step closer, hands visible, palms open. "I don't need anything from you except permission." "For what?" She glanced at the narrow space beside my bed.
To rest.
"I won't touch you. I won't even move. I just need to stay anchored in this reality until the search passes." The sentence made no sense. And yet, something in her voice, steady, honest, desperate, cut through my fear. I nodded once.
"Fine.
"But if this is a prank or a threat..." "It's neither," she said. "And thank you." She sat on the edge of the bed, leaving a careful distance between us, and lay down fully clothed on the far side, facing away. The silvery light dimmed as she closed her eyes, and the room slowly returned to normal temperature. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to my own heartbeat. After a while, curiosity won. "Who's they?" I asked quietly. Her eyes opened. "The Continuum Authority." I had heard the name like everyone had. Officially, they were a theoretical construct, a rumored organization that monitored dangerous research across timelines. Conspiracy forums loved them. Serious scholars dismissed them. "You're saying they're real?" I said. "Yes." "And you're running from them?" "I broke a rule," she said. "A big one." I turned my head slightly, just enough to see her face. "What rule?" She was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "I warned someone." Outside, a transport roared past, unaware that my understanding of reality had just cracked open. Lyra didn't sleep much. I could tell by the way her breathing stayed light, controlled. When dawn's artificial glow began to creep through the window, she sat up abruptly. "They're gone," she said, relief flooding her expression. I rubbed my eyes. "So, that's it? You vanish, and I just pretend this didn't happen?" She looked at me, really looked at me like she was committing my face to memory. I wish it could be that simple. Before I could respond, the air shimmered again. This time, alarms went off in my head, an instinctive sense of wrongness like standing too close to a cliff edge. Lyra swore under her breath. They followed a residual trace, she said. That shouldn't be possible. The wall behind my desk peeled open, not physically, but conceptually. Shapes stepped through, humanoid, but blurred, as if reality itself refused to focus on them. Lyra of the Seventh Strand. One of them said, voice layered and echoing, "You are out of bounds." She stood, placing herself between them and me. "He's not involved." "Collateral involvement is still involvement," the figure replied. I didn't think. I grabbed her wrist. "She said she was resting," I blurted out. "Is that illegal now?" The figures paused. Lyra stared at me, eyes wide. "What?" I whispered. I figured bureaucrats hate loopholes. To my shock, the air vibrated, not with anger, but with recalculation. "The rule permits anchoring in uninvolved observers," the figure said slowly. "Temporary sanctuary acknowledged." The shapes withdrew, the wall sealing behind them. Silence fell like a held breath finally released. Lyra sagged, sitting heavily on the bed. That shouldn't have worked. I let go of her wrist, suddenly aware of what I'd just done. What did I just agree to? She looked up at me, equal parts awe and concern. "You became a fixed point." That was the beginning. Over the following weeks, Lyra came back, never unannounced, always careful. She explained everything in pieces, like teaching someone to swim by letting them wade in slowly. Time, she said, wasn't a line. It was a fabric, constantly adjusting. The continuum authority didn't rule it. They maintained it, pruning outcomes they deemed catastrophic. "And you warned someone?" I said one night. "Yes," she replied. "A scientist on Kepri Station. His experiment would have collapsed 3 inhabited systems." He listened. He stopped. "Sounds like a good thing." "They don't see it that way," she said. "From their perspective, I altered a necessary sacrifice. I learned that my room, specifically my presence, had become a blind spot. My choices were statistically insignificant to their models. Unpredictable. Human. They can't calculate you," Lyra said. "That makes you dangerous. And valuable." I didn't feel either. I still went to classes, still helped my mother in the evenings, still lay awake some nights wondering how normal life could coexist with cosmic responsibility. The authority tried again, months later. This time they didn't negotiate. Reality trembled. Power failed across the city. The sky fractured into overlapping versions of itself. Lyra stood in my room, steady despite the chaos. "I need your help," she said. "Not as shelter, as a choice." "What kind of choice?" She met my eyes. "They're going to reset this sector. Quietly. Billions of lives erased before they know they existed." My chest tightened. "And you can stop them." "With your permission," she said. "I can anchor the warning here. Spread it outward. But once I do, there's no going back. They'll know I was right. And what happens to you?" She smiled faintly. "I stop running." I thought of that first night, of a stranger asking for a place to rest, not out of desire, but out of need. I thought of how easy it would have been to say no. "Do it," I said. The light returned, brighter than before, filling the room with a warmth that felt like sunrise. I felt something pass through me, not pain, not pleasure, but purpose. When it was over, the sky outside was whole again. Lyra was gone. Days passed. Then weeks. Life returned to its routines, but the news was different. Breakthroughs delayed. Disasters averted. Scientists citing unexplained insights, Sudden doubts, last-minute changes. History bending, just enough. One night, long after midnight, I felt the temperature shift again. She stood in my room, no glow this time, just a tired smile. "It worked," she said. "They're changing." I exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "So, no more hiding?" "No more hiding," she agreed. She didn't ask to sleep that night.
She didn't need to.
Before she left, she paused at the doorway. "You know," she said, "most people would have been afraid." "I was," I replied. "I just decided it wasn't the most important thing." She nodded, as if that answer mattered more than anything else. Then she stepped away, not into another fold, but into the hallway, into the ordinary world. I lay back on my bed, staring at the ceiling, aware that I was still just one person in one small room. But sometimes that was enough. And sometimes letting someone rest beside you, even just once, could change the future of everything.